Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. It's been a bit of a crazy few weeks here, if I'm honest. I've been completely rebuilding my entire routine and my entire schedule because since the beginning of the year I've been away touring, doing a lot of live sound work since January, so there's barely really been a week where I haven't been away for a couple of days doing some work, and now I'm back in the studio full time and I'm really excited. I'm really glad to be back doing loads of production with artists, doing some mixing, got a bunch of cool stuff lined up, making content like this, sharing it with you. And just trying out a load of new gear and a load of new plugins over the last couple of weeks. It's also been a great opportunity in this in-between period where I've been having these conversations with artists and also rethinking my routine. I've had an opportunity to get in now and finish up some passion projects that have been sat around for a while. So the last couple of weeks really just been mixing, trying out some new plugins and some new gear. So stick around for more of that later on. I'm going to share a really cool plugin with you that I found over the last couple of weeks. This week has basically been completely about mixing. I've been making some content as well, but mostly been in the studio working on some mixes which have been sat on my hard drive for a very long time. So it's been really nice to get in and start finishing them up. So as I mentioned, I've been away on tour a lot, doing a lot of live sound mixing for the first time in a very long time. When I first started in the audio world, I was doing quite a lot of live sound, and then I took a long break, just decided it wasn't really for me. And then last year started getting back into doing more live sound, more live shows, mixing gigs. And I've been really loving it. And this opportunity has given me a chance to reflect on a lot of the differences between live sound mixing and studio mixing, and how I can maybe take some things from live sound and apply them to mixing. When I first got back into the world of live sound, I was a bit apprehensive because I felt like I'm a studio guy. I don't know if I really fit in that world. I was taking all of what I know and love about studio mixing and trying to apply that to live sound, and it was really beneficial. It really helped me, particularly in the beginning, just thinking about it like, well, this is the same as mixing a record. I'm just doing it in a live show. So now I've been trying to take what I learned in the live environment back to the studio, and it's been really interesting to think about it, because I think as studio engineers we really overcomplicate the mixing process. Sometimes we're always thinking about what gear do we have, what plugins do we need, all these techniques, just loads of different stuff that in live sound is not really relevant. My setup on this tour was super minimal. There wasn't a budget for a huge live sound rig. You know, I had like a Behringer X32 compact and like no outboard gear, so just working on what was available on the console, which is basically the default EQ and channel strip for every channel, and then you have 8 inserts for effects. You really have to pick the parts that you want to treat with the more specific tools, for example like an LA2A or an 1176, and it just made me really think a lot more about my workflow and what's actually important in the mix. What can we highlight? What do we need to highlight? Often it's forgotten that really what we're supposed to be doing is serving the performance, serving the song, and trying to respond to what's coming out of the speakers in real time and capturing that, rather than getting so bogged down in the minute details of an EQ on a hi-hat, for example. I think one of the most important things we can do as producers and musicians and mix engineers or whatever is think about music as a 4-dimensional art form, that it has a width in terms of the stereo field and the left to right panning. It has a height in terms of frequency, low frequency to high frequency. It has depth in terms of front to back, and that's whether that's volume or spatial effects. But it also has a 4th dimension, which is time, and how all of those things change over time. If you have something which is continuously wide, tall and deep, it doesn't really have any width, height, or depth. It just becomes kind of static and uninteresting. But if something evolves over time and it becomes wider and it becomes bigger and it becomes deeper and then it becomes shallower and narrower and smaller, that change, that constant change, is what makes music exciting and is really what delivers the emotion of a performance. So how do we bring that out in a mix? Well, for me, I really truly believe now, after spending 6 months out doing live sound, that the single most important tool that we have at our disposal as mix engineers is just the volume fader. We can think about, do we have an 1176? Have we got an LA2A? Have you got a dynamic EQ? Have you got a multi-band EQ? Have you got resonance suppressor, AI-powered tools, whatever? Ultimately, the most powerful tool you have at your disposal is your volume fader. Because the perspective of a vocal, for example, in a mix, if a vocal is up front and it's super loud, it's intimate, it's in your face. If it's back in the mix, it's almost kind of desperate sometimes and reaching out to you to lean in to hear it. And I think that is what generates emotion and feeling. And all of this is just about level, really. I remember years ago reading this quote, or maybe somebody told me it, I can't remember. I'm going to butcher it, and apologies to whoever originally wrote this or came up with this concept. But the idea is that if you were mixing a live show, for example, you were tasked with mixing a band, as an engineer, somebody who knows a lot about the live show, and for whatever reason, say you had to rush off during that performance and pull a random member of the crowd who knew nothing about live sound out of the audience and say to them, mix this show. What could you teach them in that 1 minute that you have to tell them how to do it before you leave? And really the only thing you could say to them is, if something is too loud, turn it down using this fader. If something is too quiet, turn it up using this fader. And they would probably get through the show just doing that. So let's try and apply that to studio mixing. And the next time you think you have an issue with your mix and you're not sure what it is, and you reach for a dynamic EQ and you add 12 bands on it and you get dialing in the minutiae of side chaining the lead vocal to the music bus and then doing some crazy shit on the mix bus, just turn up the vocal or just turn something else down and see if that solves the problem first. So in the previous video, I talked about how I just picked up a Memory Man delay pedal and was having loads of fun with it. I've also recently got hold of this Roland RDE1800, which is the Roland digital echo from the 1980s, I think. The font is quite 80s. It was only ever made in Japan, this unit, and it's basically the digital version of the RE201 Space Echo, which is an incredible sounding and well sought after tape echo from Roland. And this RDE1800 is amazing. It's super rare. They're really hard to come across, particularly in the UK. Like I say, it's a digital echo, but it does have the same spring reverb tank as the original RE201 analog tape echo. So it's got an incredible sounding reverb in it. Although the delay is digital, it's dark and it's dirty and it does distort really easily. What I love about it is it's hands-on. And I think I've found that, particularly when it comes to things like delay units, being able to get your hands on it and just change things, play around with things. I'm not a big fan of opening up a delay plugin and syncing the time to the grid and then kind of just adjusting the feedback and the EQ a little bit, and it kind of always sounds the same every time you do it. You end up doing the same thing all the time. I like the fun of the hardware delay where you don't really know if it's in sync completely. You're probably never going to do the same thing twice, and that for me is the fun of the hardware delay. So I've been having so much fun with this unit. It sounds great.
You take me to France, something to rest and undress without telling me why. Up through the mountains, higher and higher, a pair of kites in the sky. She blows her pay on a body weight in body pain. She's spinning round in roses by the Rhine. She's wise now, but none the wiser. Some people need saving twice, and I'll be a savior. She's spinning round in roses by the Rhine. She's wise now, but none the wiser. Some people need saving twice, and I'll be a savior.
what's great about this unit is it's completely mono. So you get this combined spring reverb and delay, which is great for vocals, particularly in an indie rock mix like I was just showing you. It really helps to sit the vocal in place because you have all these guitars going on and the drums going on, and behind the vocal is this echo and this reverb, which just sounds really cool, and it's dark and it sits in the right place. And having the EQ on the unit as well is really useful to find the exact point where it just sits behind the vocal. Anyway, obviously the disadvantage to this unit is that it lives in the studio and I can't take it everywhere with me. So I thought it would be fun to try and recreate the sound of the Roland RDE-1800 using nothing but Logic stock plugins and save that as a preset that I could take anywhere. So I've tried to give that a go. I'll also leave a link in the description below for you to download this preset if you want to use this on your own mixes. It's just a bit of fun. It's completely free, and it's just my attempt at trying to create this strange, dirty, distorted delay and reverb sound from the RDE-1800. So I mentioned at the top of this video that I'd also been playing around with some new plugins as well, and one of the plugins that I've been loving in the last couple of weeks of doing these mixes is the Levelor from Standard Audio and Safari Pedals. This is a recreation of the hardware Levelor from Standard Audio, which is a 500 series unit. Safari Pedals actually reached out to me whilst I was away on tour with a pre-release version of this plugin and said, check it out. If you want to do a video on it, it'd be great to see it. But unfortunately, I was so busy with the tour and stuff that I just didn't have the time to do any content about the Levelor or anything like that. So I've just thought I'd include a bit of that here now and show you what I think about this plugin. I've been playing around with it. I do genuinely love it. I think it's a really great sounding plugin. I've always been a big fan of the Devil Lock from Sound Toys, which is a recreation of the Shure Level Lock, and this is definitely rivaling it. I haven't played around with it enough yet to say whether I think this is better than the Devil Lock, but I have a hunch that I'm going to be using this more than I use the Devil Lock. So check this out. This is the Safari Pedals and Standard Audio Levelor. I do have an affiliate link for this plugin, which I put in the description below. So you can go and check that out after this video. And by doing it via the affiliate link, you are supporting me and this channel, which is massively appreciated. So if you do want to check it out, please do it on that link. This is what it sounds like. So I have this mix here, which is not a finished mix by any means. This is still very much a work in progress, but I wanted to demonstrate it on something which wasn't finished, just so you kind of get an idea of like exactly what it's doing in a real life scenario and just how cool it sounds. So I have this version of this mix, which is actually the reset of the mix. So it's everything is a 0. This is before I started any of the mixing, and I'm just going to put it on the whole drum kit so you can hear what a difference it makes to the kit. It's probably way too much, but you can hear how effective it is. If I insert Levelor on the kit and just take a listen to this, let's hear it bypass and then I'll engage it. That's so cool. I'm not even doing anything. I've just literally like turned the input up and the output down a bit and turned this tone control up. It sounds amazing. And that is, as like you can see, there's no processing going on in this mix at all. That is just the drum kit, completely unprocessed, everything at 0, but with the Levelor on the whole drum bus. And it sounds amazing. Just that on its own, it's so effective. I could use that as a starting point for a drum sound and then just balance everything into it and probably be like 75% of the way there in terms of creating a drum sound. But if I skip forward now, let's skip forward to the latest version of the mix. So if I go to my alternatives, and if you're not using project alternatives, by the way, to save different versions of the mix so that you can go back and keep it all within one file, then you should be. Look into it. Maybe I'll do a video on it at some point, because every time I use project alternatives in a session and I'm with an artist who uses Logic, they're like, what are you, I didn't know about this. It seems like nobody knows about project alternatives. So where I'm using the level or now is just on the room mics in this mix within the kit. You can see on this version of the mix, I've got some more processing going. I've still not got loads of drum processing going on because I don't like to do loads of drum processing, but some little bits around here, some SSL. But the level or is coming in on the room mics, which have a little bit of EQ going on, just taking out some low mid boxiness around 250 and taking out some super low rumble and stuff from the room. And then using the level or after that to just really squash the hell out of those room mics. And this is what they sound like before and after. They're blended in about 80%, and this tone control is really nice for just adding a smooth airiness to that top end of that without it being harsh. It sounds really smooth, and that's what I love about this tone control. You can also make it super dark as well. And even when I boost that to the extremes, it doesn't sound harsh or horrible. It sounds natural and smooth, and I guess musical is the term people use. And then let's hear that in the rest of the kit. It's adding so much energy. Let's hear that in the whole mix. Again, this is the mix is not anywhere near finished, so excuse the fact that it sounds dry and unbalanced and not particularly good at the minute because it's nowhere near a finished mix. But this is what the leveler is doing at this stage of the mix.
I used to think I was the boy, from my shoes up to the aglets on the drawstring of my corduroy. I'd await each joyful day's return. They'd watch turn how I could be so very happy. But then I hear them say,
I think it just sounds great. It adds so much life and energy to the drums, and you could use this on a whole ton of different stuff. It doesn't have to just be drums. And even if you've not got live drums, like if you watched my first video in this series where I shared with you how to get a Logic drummer to be more effective and more have more control over it, check it out, because I share a free preset for Logic drummer where you could use this on those room mics, and that would sound amazing, just even on like digital electronic drums. Or it could be loops, could be anything. It could be vocals, could be guitars. Like I say, there's no limit to where you could use this. I've only tried it so far on the drums in this mix, and I've been blown away by it. So check it out. Standard Audio's Fire Pedals Leveler. There's a link in the description below. Go and grab it right now. I promise you, it's a great plugin. So I hope you enjoyed this video. As I mentioned before in the previous episode of this series, I am going to be doing a whole bunch of these videos in this kind of format, really enjoying this style of just sharing things with you, and hope you're enjoying it as well. So please do leave a comment below. Let me know what you think to this format. Let me know what you think to all the stuff we've been talking about today. Super excited to do some more sessions. Got a load of studio sessions coming up in the next few weeks, which I'm going to be documenting and sharing with you as well. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.